Good morning. Welcome back to the Coming Home to You Sacred Sisterhood Sparkcast, the sanctuary for soul-led women, healers, mamas, visionaries, and leaders just like you who are ready to rise fully in their light. Here, we remember what it means to come home to ourselves, beyond the roles, beyond the noise, and the expectations, because coming home to you is not a destination, it's a devotion. And this is the space where progress matters more than perfection. And every single episode is that invitation, a step on the journey, a breath of remembrance, and a chance to reconnect with the true self and embrace the unique path that is folding before you. And now, before we dive into this beautiful conversation on courage and resilience, let's begin, as we always do, with our sacred one breath, one heart ritual. So wherever you are, soften your gaze or close your eyes if it feels safe to do so. Placing one hand in your heart and the other in your womb space, in your belly. Take one slow inhale. And I want you to breathe in courage, the bravery to face what feels uncertain today, the power to rise when it would be just easier to fall. And I want you to hold it for a moment. And as you exhale, slowly breathe out resilience. The knowing that no matter what, you bend, but you don't break. Now inhale again, that courage, the strong and it's steady, alive within you. Holding it here, letting it settle. And as you exhale, exhale the resilience, flowing, flexible, and unshakable at your core. With each breath, feel yourself aligning with these frequencies. Feel courage anchoring your heart. Feel resilience weaving strength into your soul. Now take one more deep breath. Now I want you to anchor in your intention today. How do you want to be held in this space? To be seen, to be received? How do you want to show up? Mm. And now, sisters, like that, we arrive together as one circle, one breath, and one heart. And we're ready to rise in courage and resilience. Oh, today I am extremely honored to welcome four extraordinary women to the circle today. And I know some of these are going to be familiar faces for you. And so I'm so grateful to have them here again with us. First beautiful soul we have is Gwen Gearing. She's a transformational mentor for ambitious parents and couples and the visionary behind Tantric Leadership, helping families reconnect and thrive with bold truth and tenderness. Welcome, Gwen. And next we have Celine Rasbourne, a healer and wisdom keeper, weaving faith and resilience into practices that restore the soul and bring women back to their inner strength. Welcome, Celine. Then we have Lumina Castro, a visionary guide and truth teller who embodies grounded courage in her journey and the way she supports women in reclaiming their voices. Grateful to have you here, sister. And last but not least, the happy wife coach herself, Julie Brooks, CEO, mentor, and community builder who champions inclusion and empowerment by teaching women how to belong deeply and lead courageously. Welcome all to the Sparkcast today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Margarita.
Thank you, Margarita. Thank you, hermanas.
Yes, I'm glad you said something. Let's dive in, sisters. I love it. Okay. So we begin where we always begin, that deep-rooted start, where we ground ourselves in our truth, reclaim our identity. And Lumina, this first question is going to be for you. You are a medicine woman, a healer, and a wisdom keeper who guides people through ancestral and quantum healing. And your work is all about helping others reclaim their soul sovereignty. How has courage rooted you in your own lineage and identity? And in what ways has resilience carried you through the deeper initiations on your path?
Thank you. I love your questions, Margarita. The hours are so powerful. It's like, I'll get right down to the crux of the matter, no?
You got
Good
it. You got
essence.
it.
I love it. That's what we're here for. We're not here to waste time. We came here to be big and to reclaim our identity and our sovereignty. So thank you for that. I love this question. Reclaiming the courage and resilience. I know for when I was pondering about this, and I was meditating about this earlier today in the morning as well, is with remembering that understanding, coming back to the earth, coming back to our heart, is really the essence of how we are tapping back into our courage. And all, at the Akashic level, I'm also an Akashic reader, so we recognize that this timeline is designed to create complete duality from the moment we are conceived. The moment, even inside of our mother's womb and beyond became, we understood these soul contracts to be one that's going to create so much division and forgetting is essentially what it's doing. And so to reclaim our courage and reclaim our essence is to really remember who we are, which is understanding that we are the expansive. And in the perspective of my way, I am a woman of the Mexica lineage, Yaqui and Purepecha nation, but I was raised in a very colonized, Catholic upbringing. And not to fault my ancestors, but because conquest happened, right? All around the world. All of our ancestors were conquered in some way. And because they were not defeated, remember this, we are from the survivors of every single one of them. But however, we've also been gifted these ideas and programmings of separation from our medicines. From what is the medicine? Sit on a tree. Go back to being in nature. Go back to being grounding. Listen to the whispers of the wind. Watch when the bird animal that comes to you since you were a child has been speaking to you. What does that mean in your ancestrals? What does that lineage understand of that animal? What does that lineage understand of these elements? And that helps us reclaim, at least it helped me deeply reclaim my frequency, my breath, my peace, my medicine inside. The idea that we are with earth stuff is woo woo. Oh, these drumming things is woo woo. Oh, breath work is woo woo. Sitting around a fire and dancing is woo woo. Rattling is woo woo. Oh, this is us connecting to the wind.
Ah.
This is us connecting to our heart the first time we heard it. That grounded us, the spirit coming back home to a body capsule that it's about to embark on this incredible journey with, right? And that journey entailed being told the wounds of our parent channels, being imprinted upon the wounds of you must look like this, you must have this, you must do this, you must, right? The rise of industrial showed the decline of ritualism across the board. And all of us are still coming back to center from so much trauma. And so coming back to earth has been what really gave me a lot of understanding, coming back to myself and courage, because I began to see myself within the elements of our Mother Earth. I am that mountain. I am that eagle. I am that woman that knows that she needs to take a break to give herself rest, because that's what the bear teaches me, to go hibernate. And it also tells me so much, so many medicines, right? And it's never to fault our parents. I never want to fault my parents because they're just Catholic and they didn't know any better. And they had to, bend the knee in some way. And so coming back to earth is huge for me. And that's why I like to dedicate my medicine path with helping women in the sweat lodge and Temascan and breath works and in EFT and the alchemy of breath and coming back to what does it mean to sit with combo or to sit with tobacco or to sit with, rapé or, all these things that give us these spaces that ultimately, when we give ourselves a break, it gives us a perspective going, wow, what was my nervous system holding on to that no longer serves me? No unresourceful people, only unresourceful states. So come back to your center. Yeah. I don't know if that was enough time.
I love that. The last thing you said, no unresourceful people, just unresourceful states. That
Yeah,
was powerful.
yeah.
That's awesome. That really landed for me. Thank you for sharing all of that. And it's so true about we are all connected. And I loved you said it briefly, but it was so powerful what you said. It's like learning our ways of being by watching the mountains. We are the mountains. We are the eagles. We learn how to hibernate with the bears and living in rhythm is what I heard. Living
Yeah.
in the rhythm of everything. And so paying attention to how nature is doing it because she gets it right. I love that.
Right.
I'll open this question to the rest of the panel. Where um, have you discovered your own roots of courage and resilience?
I can go if you guys want me to.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Well, to answer that, and I loved what you said, Lumina, about the medicine inside. That just sounded so beautiful that we have, that inside of us. It's so healing. But to answer that, I want to share where my journey started. 10 years ago, my husband of 27 years came home and said, I'm not in love with you anymore, and I want a divorce. And that moment really cracked my heart wide open from the inside out. Um, and that friend that I built a life with was just suddenly a stranger, right? So the loss and the grief and the sorrow marked the beginning of my restoration. But I needed the courage to understand, like, how did we fall apart? And was there anything I could have done differently? And in that heartbreak, I was not alone. Jesus, who I already loved as my Lord and Savior, met me there, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was holy, at the same time, it was crushing. So I sensed clearly in that moment that it was not a battle of flesh and blood just between my husband and me in that kitchen, but a spiritual war between good and evil. And
Mm,
I knew I wasn't alone. And that night, God showed me He is way more real and powerful than I had ever even imagined.
mm,
And in the months that followed, I cried out to Jesus to carry me, and God gave me just the resilience to not give up, right? As I prayed for my husband to return. And I buried myself in every marriage book and every marriage scripture I could find, because I'd never done that before. And what I discovered was humbling. I could see why our marriage had fallen apart, because we simply just didn't know much about marriage. And as I prayed for my husband to return, I also prayed, Lord, show me your playbook for my marriage. And after our divorce, which was sad, I promised God, if you ever bless me with the chance to be a wife again, I'm going to do it your way. And then God did bless me with an incredible new husband. And I was super ready for happily ever after, right? But it wasn't long before I found myself just walking through the familiar pain. Lost intimacy and connection. I felt unloved and I was acting unloving. There was conflict, bitter, confused, and angry was what I felt.
mm,
And my heart was just hard. I was emotionally shutting down. I was distant. I was guarded, and I felt hopeless because now I was stuck and I was defeated and nothing I tried worked. And worst of all, even in my second chance, I knew I wasn't living in God's design. So I was super anxious and restless. And 2 years ago, I made a big decision. I invested in coaching and community. And it wasn't really for marriage, it was for spiritual growth and what's my purpose in life. And marriage wasn't even on my radar. But on day 3 of that journey, I was presented with a wheel of life, and it's got God in the center. And I saw a category, it said marriage and romance, and it hit me hard, the word romance. And in my time with God, I asked him, Lord, give me your best version of me in my marriage. And he literally answered through my pencil, respect. And since that's not a word I use very often, I know it came from him. And I asked God, why am I not doing this? And he gently said, because you don't know how. And so we went on a journey together. And God showed me just first that He showed me my sin of pride and selfishness. And second, He revealed to me that my number one purpose is to walk in obedience in His design in my marriage, to be transformed in His divine nature, into Him. And in my life. And third, He whispered, I'm calling you to help other wives who are hurting too. But I still needed a breakthrough in my marriage. So that moment on day 3, He gave me the courage to begin a journey. And it changed my heart and my home, my marriage, my life forever. So
Beautiful.
yes.
Wow. That's very bold and courageous to sit there, because I think at that point I can relate in wanting just to hide and coil up and throw in the towel.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Embarrassed. Yes, thank you.
I can go
You're good.
next.
Yes,
Yeah,
thanks,
I can go
Celine.
next. Tough act to follow, but I probably in one of the toughest times in my life. I had 2 ectopic pregnancies. I had no idea where that came from. And I got to turn to a friend of mine who was a Christian. I was brought up Catholic, like Lumina. And really just so many new things opened up because I got to trust. I got to trust and learn from people who were looking at life in a very different way, and learning to reinvent myself, where I got to reconnect with my body and my mind, to be honest, where I was so disconnected before. I didn't realize what was going on with my body. And it wasn't about trusting a doctor or letting somebody else, intervene. It was me connecting and knowing that there's something else that I can create. I still wanted children, and I still wanted to be within my power, and I got to trust, to learn, to learn how to trust God and other people within the community to support me with that. So that's one of the ways that I was able to respond to something that maybe couldn't have been possible.
Learning to trust in your community.
Mhm.
Love that.
Beautiful set. When I tap into courage, I also tap into that source of resilience and connect with nature as I moved from Belgium to Italy and I live in the middle of the mountains, which is for me very important. When I open my window, the first thing I see are the mountains and the birds, and I only hear nature, and that is healing my essence. And as a tantric, for me, when I think about God and resilience and courage, then the one thing that moves me for everything is love. That's the key. That drives everything. And that love is something you get to, it's always there. It's in the middle of your system, right? It's there. It's God within yourself that is here present every day. And we not always have access to that. And when we connect with our truth and trust and tenderness, then we connect with the God within, because God is everywhere, but we get to really land that part within ourselves. And courage is the key to that, in my awareness. Because when we see the vibrations and frequencies, then we have frequencies that are connected to pain and anger and frustration. And then we have vibrations that are connected to love and peace and vulnerability and awareness and all this area. And the bigger shift between being in one space that is taking you down in a downward spiral, or in the other space where you are lifting yourself up or elevating in an upward spiral, courage is right in the middle. And that's for me one of the reasons I'm here in this podcast today, because courage is the moving needle experience we all get to have in order to lean into our ego, which we need.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have it. But leaning into our ego in order to serve the love within ourselves.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love is the key, and it drives everything. That just was like,
And in order to connect with that, we need courage. Because otherwise we can be vulnerable. We can't feel what we feel. We can't allow what we need to allow in order to feel complete within ourselves, independent, interconnected, and in service. So
it's so true. You need courage to be vulnerable, because I think vulnerability, a lot of people say, it's weakness. It's like it takes a lot of courage to allow yourself to be in a vulnerable space. And I
yeah,
think anybody going to battle, the firemen going to a burning building, they're vulnerable, but it takes courage for them to be there. And
yeah.
I just love how you put that. So thank you for presencing the importance of the courage that it takes to put yourself out there, to lean into the love, to lean into the unknown, and to trust. So thank you. Everything that everybody shared was so beautiful and so on, perfect time for the courage and resilience. I think the full moon, like I said earlier, really is calling us forward, illuminating the courage and the resilience that we've been working on. I mean, I think all of us have courage and resilience. We get to just start noticing those times when we are encouraged and in our resilience, because oftentimes we just focus on the down and not on how we get up. And it's how we get up that is our resilience and our courage. And if we can just write the journal on all those times that you got back up and you showed your resilience, I think that we would just see how badasses we are, truly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Embrace that.
Celine, this question is for you, my sister. You've lived a rich life of cultural connection, leadership, and decades of service in the corporate world, while also standing fiercely for values like love, passion, and freedom. How have you personally turned challenges, whether in family, career, or identity, into sparks of growth? And what role has resilience really played in helping you rise stronger each time?
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to choose to answer this question with examples. So I'm going to start from many years ago. So I know that at the age of 17, I realized that, life can happen to me or life can happen for me. And I know that I chose at that time that life will happen for me. I had two major incidents that happened when I was young. When I was 11, I was holding my little brother's hand and we were crossing the street and he got hit by a drunk driver. And, I was full of guilt and shame that I hadn't been able to save him. He came out alive. Everything was fine after just a lot of work. It was a long road afterwards to recovery, but he's doing great. But I felt so responsible. And that's the first time that I saw my parents cry, my big, strong dad seeing cry. That marked me in terms of, feeling really guilty and shame for what I had created then. And I never dealt with it until many years later. When I was 17, my dad, who can hardly afford it, basically gave me a car, and I wasn't very grateful. And I realized that afterwards. And 6 months later, I had a very severe crash accident. I was very lucky to come alive. But I told myself at that time that I would never owe anybody anything. I didn't want to owe anybody anything. I became very controlling, and I was very risk adverse in my life all around until I met my husband. So Gwen talked about love a minute ago, and this man has changed my life. We're now married 30 years this year. And I met this man and I decided right there and then to do everything I could to move and be in the same country than he was. So And I was so committed. I was in my business school. I always remember we just took a logistics course from this British guy, and I didn't speak English very well then, but I remember being so committed, so into what I was going to create with my boyfriend at the time and how we wanted to be in the same country. I just stayed committed and consistent. And every week I would call him and have a conversation with this guy to say, here's what's possible with me coming. I'm a multilingual person. This is what I can offer you. I've heard you in your lecture. I know what's in the gap. And I stayed on them. And 2 months later, when I went to the UK for Easter to visit my boyfriend, I had an interview. And I always remember it was just, everything happened. Like basically, I trusted that my intention was honestly so clear that everything was going to happen, and it did. I joined the organization, so I was very fortunate. I joined the European graduate program, so I was with over graduates outside the UK. I got into a lot of training, got a lot of connections, and then many years later, we got acquired by a Japanese company, so now things were going to shift, and I got the opportunity to see if I wanted to go to Japan. And after all the selections from 100 candidates down to 4, I was told that my personality would not fit going to Japan for 2 years. I thought, what's the right opposite of Japan? Let's go to the US. I met somebody in the company that could get me on that trajectory. I stayed very connected. I made some move within the organization that allowed me a year later to move to the US with my husband at the time. Then we got married and moving with my husband. So again, being very committed, very, very much into my vision and moving, forward with what we could create, knowing that I wasn't quite sure how long this move was going to be. And here we are 30 years later. I've been another aspects of the resilience. So, I've worked in a Japanese organization now for 25 years, and, I'm a woman in a leadership role, which is very unusual. And I've learned from the Japanese what it takes to be resilient. So I was I was for 12 years in our global negotiation team. And when you understand Japanese culture, it's basically them against us. So even my colleagues in Japan would be on the side of my suppliers, and then we would be like the other group coming from overseas. And what I know I learned is patience. They're the most patient people in a negotiation, and they will always win because everybody else is so impatient. Being present, fully present for them, not giving up, standing for my values, standing for what I want because I was representing the company, but also who I am as a woman. I'm not here to blackmail or pretend, I have integrity for myself. And, I know that I have a reputation within the company. I know that I've been around in this company for a very long time and people respect me because I have stood for those values that are very important for them. And I've stayed committed that way. That's another aspect of the leadership that I truly believe makes a difference, especially for women in this world. I work in the IT environment. It's very male dominant.
Mm-hmm.
It's even more dominant since COVID, where a lot of women have, kind of shifted away from that environment, and a lot of more male male dominance came back into this space. Still sticking to my values has been so very important, And whether I manage people or I manage my 3 kids and my husband, for me, it's all about being trustworthy. I'm a big problem solver. So, mechanically, I'm a very resilient person because I'm very patient. My energy is very consistent with other people, even though inside I may be in total turmoil. When I connect with other people, I connect to what they're going to get from me. Because most people, whether they work for me or I'm going to support, they're looking for something from me that will make a difference for them. So I consider myself resilient in that, I'm always looking at who do I want to be in that relationship, whether it's in a work relationship or in my personal life, right? So I always choose the path for what will result in not a win-win, but really in me making a difference in somebody else's life. I believe in resilience in relationship. So because I moved around from Europe to the US, and I have a kid who's in Korea. My family is all over the world. My husband's family even more. Um, Relationship for me is something I get to cherish dearly. And I don't sit here thinking, why don't people call me? No. When I travel, I make every effort. I just came back from 2 weeks in France. I met 12, 15 of my friends because I made it happen. I created the opportunity, for them to be able to connect with me, but creating something for them that makes a difference for them too. They're being seen, they're being heard, and I'm there so happy to connect with everyone. I've done all the things that have supported us in our life. When we had our twins, we decided to get French au pair. And, this for 5 years, we had 3 girls in totals. These were my oldest daughters, if you want. They were all between 18 and 20. They lived with us and took care of my kids. And, those relationships have grown into real long life friendships. And I look at friendships in a long life way. And resilience is about long life commitment, relationships especially. Um, I'll just finish with that. But another aspect of my life that support resilience and courage is I love triathlon. So after I had my twins, I decided what sport would support my stamina, would support me really getting space, being with women. So I joined a women triathlon group in Southern California, where I was living at the time. And triathlon is about going the distance. So I learned what it takes to really be connected to my body and my mind, and really, stretching myself beyond what I ever thought was possible. I never thought I could swim 2.5 miles in a decent time. I never thought I could swim in open water, no matter what. So many aspects of what I've discovered I actually thoroughly enjoy. And what I want to tell you here is, for me, resilience is about passion. It's about being committed and consistent, and getting results, but it's really about passion. It's really about me really creating something that I'm really truly passionate about. That's what makes a difference for me. So, my life, I have my eyes wide open all the time to possibilities. I never let myself being cornered. I always look at what's possible elsewhere. What else is possible? If it doesn't fit my vision, what else can I do? What else can I do? So just finding those resources that will make a difference.
Mm, I love that. You said patience always wins, and to be fully present. I mean, that you said a lot of beautiful things, and never giving up on your values. I thought was a really beautiful point to make. Because
Yeah,
I think
just deciding who you want to be in the face of adversity, right? So no matter what happens, who do I want to be, right? Do I want to, again, I want life to happen to me, or do I want to have life happen for me? And it's a much better place to look at it from, okay, this is happening right now. What else is possible? Who else can I reach out to? Where can I go to get the support that I need? Because maybe there's something I don't see, right? So
yes,
that's the piece
I love
of
that.
patience that's important. Is not just reacting, on a dime to something, but just pausing,
Pausing.
and saying, okay, what am I not seeing? And sometimes you need somebody else to help you do that.
Yes, because you don't know what you don't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love it. Oh my gosh, such beautiful things. I'll open it up to the panel. How do you personally reframe hardships into strength and renewal in your life, ladies?
I'd like to share. I loved your share, Celine. Thank you. I identified so much
So,
with it. The
so good.
values, the patience, all of it too. And I didn't uh I didn't get a chance to go a little bit of what my background is I really resonate with what you talked about, your experiences. My background before I became a medicine woman was working in clinical and serving over a decade long in clinical. I'm a mental health clinician. And it was during the height of fentanyl when I was losing so many clients. And in 10 years, I've seen thousands of clients and buried hundreds of them. And it was heartbreaking. No matter how much therapy I'd go to, I couldn't do it anymore. My heart was just breaking. I was at the top of my career and I could not handle doing this and feeding the machine a treatment anymore that compartmentalize the human being into pieces, into labels, into DSM things that can get billed. No. They lost the holistic human aspect of healing. And I got out of that field and everyone was like, are you crazy? I was 38 at the time. I'm now going to be 51 in a couple of weeks, but top of my career. And people were saying, stop. What do you, don't, don't start slowing it down. And towards the end, when I finally that's it, I'm done. After the 10 years, I'm done. I can't. Left it, floundered. And I realized I embraced and leaned into it and started to say, everything that led me up here has always made me resilient. Nothing's ever broken me. It's always been a pause or a detour or a hold on. And because of the courage of leaning into those discomforts, we say it in the native way, it's the medicine wheel path. The red, the yellow, the black, and the white door. The black door, the red is the door of the wound, the hero's journey, the heroine's journey, right? Something broke me. Sorry, I cursed, but I'm a spicy medicine woman. But something has to crack us and buckle us, and we lean into the courage of who am I? Because there is a resilience that comes from it. There's a birthing that comes from it, and there is an identification of ourselves. Our value systems become more aligned. Our boundaries become more aligned. Our vision becomes more aligned, right? And we begin to see who's truly our tribe spiritually. And we begin to see that God's inside of us and not outside. God is inside, just like the whispers of the wind in the tree, just like the waters running. What does it tell me? My waters are running. Flow. Lean into it. Go into the yellow door. Seek the wisdom. What does that mean? Find your mentors. Find your elders. So I began to search my elders, and I found my medicine path of still being able to help people in a clinical sense with all this knowledge, and began to learn about plants. My first was as a medicine woman. My first plant that I began to learn about was cannabis and the cannabinoid system. What? And I began to use that mind of loving to learn and knowledge and thinking, dedicated to understanding the actual frequency, biofield, terpenes, all of the body, and seeing it from a whole perspective, the way the ancestors saw it. Hey, now that began to create more clarity for me. And I began to understand my path as a medicine woman. And during that path as a medicine woman, I don't share this often because I still just kind of leaving a little bit of distance from that. But I got involved in a beautiful relationship, what I thought, and it ended up not being so. I thought it was going to be a partnership, and that partnership fell through because he did not choose to embrace his real essence of not wanting to be with women. So what was my leaning into that discomfort? I became celibate, held space for loving energy, and focused all of my medicine on unconditionally loving myself so I can embody love for others always. Because that was the lesson, right? My worth is not contingent on a partner. My spirituality, my essence, my beauty is not contingent on a partner's receiving me or not. It's about me receiving me. And everything else falls into place. Right? And so I sought my elders in that space. And I went into the black door, which is the door of the great mystery. And when we dive into the discomfort of all those layers that may seem really weird because it's a whole new version of you, and your nervous system that's ancient and archaic, as we know, and your brain that is sophisticated and so evolved is going, oh my gosh, who is this? What am I? What's going on? I'm feeling all these things. Oh, we lean into the discomfort of allowing myself to spread my wings like the eagle and rise above with the vision staying connected to myself, to my source, to my God, and my feet firmly planted in the earth, and my rituals of healing myself, smudging, dancing around the fire, screaming to the mountains when I need to, and letting myself be washed away with the rivers to come back to the white door, resurrecting, right? We each have agreed to a medicine wheel path, and I really appreciated how you framed yours. And I think that when we lean into the medicine path of life and we see life as ceremony, the hardships are literally just something cracking you so your light comes forward. Oh,
Oh,
thank you.
wow. Such powerful medicine. Mm.
I love
Yeah,
that.
me too. I can completely relate to your story, and also with Celine, in terms of we all have our stories of the past. We all have our experiences of the past. And when we step into our courage, we are able to open the door of resilience. And that resilience brings us and makes us to the person that we are right now, today. And that's a blessing. And I totally relate to life happens for us, not to us, because we create life. Literally, we create life. And not only with birthing a child as a woman or having sexual intimacy with a man so we can carry a child. It's like we cause and create life every day, consciously or unconsciously. And we do that unconsciously by leaning into our past, our drama, our stories, and we cause and create drama and stories and the world we live in today because we are co-creating it. And the moment we lean into courage and we step into our resilience, we are able to embrace what life is causing and creating because we are in charge of that. And being in charge of that is allowing, when we elevate our frequencies, when we elevate the love and the passion as that came through today, that makes us co-creators of all what we see and all what we can be. And being resilient for me in my life is, I think it's one of the bigger powers of a woman. And it's not to degrade men because they all have significant powers, and without them, I would not say we aren't complete, because we are complete within ourselves. But they elevate our powers when they are willing to surrender to who they are. So when life comes to us and we are in a space of despair or challenge or desperation, then the only key we have is to really lean into that courage. I know as a mom, in my marriage, in friendships, in business, we all have our challenges, and that's normal. And that is just the power of life. And when we can, instead of trying to suppress it or push it away or make it our comfort zone, then we just reject resilience. We just reject the power of passion. We reject the love. We reject the courage that we have all in us to be who we want to be. And I love the way you expressed that you have a marriage of 30 years going on and that you paid your prices to be in that marriage in the way you are today. And actually, as women, we really get to acknowledge our resilience. We get to acknowledge our pain and sufferings we had, because without it, we wouldn't be who we are today. And in Tantra, we see this as our shadow work we get to do with ourselves to step into that light. And the courage is that bridge between that shadow and that light within ourselves. And when we allow that and we can surrender to that, this is where we can be truly, authentically who we are, despite everything we received in life. Because when we step into our co-creation energy and responsibility, we always know we played our part in the life we caused and created.
Ooh, wow, that's beautiful, Gwen. Oh my gosh. I don't know how I got on this panel, but I am hearing some amazing truth here. It's exciting. I mean, I like decide what we do in the face of diversity. Our experience is a blessing. Life happens for us, not to us. We cause and create life every day. Ooh, consciously and then subconsciously. There's so much power in that. So thank y'all for sharing your wisdom. I'm learning so much. So I just want to share that when God called me to help other wives who were struggling in the distance and the tension and all of the things that we're talking about, I still needed breakthrough in my own marriage. And God gave me the courage to become a new wife with a soft, obedient heart. So as y'all were talking about the new creation, he really made me a new creation. But even when I was heart, my heart was right with the wanting and desire to be who he wanted to call me to. Um, and I was willing. It was hard because I still didn't know how. And then God started just giving me exactly what I needed to be resilient. So I started showing up differently in my marriage. And I just began practicing what I call happy wife superpowers. And they're just simple biblical ways to respect, trust, and inspire my husband without ever saying a word. So, well, saying the right words without putting it on him and making him defensive, right? So it really worked. And God changed my heart and he softened my heart. And when he did, that softened my husband's heart for me and our marriage changed. So the conflict just melted. That my husband just started to relax and he didn't have to defend himself anymore. And he became more generous and more playful and more present. So I was smiling and we were laughing, and there was tenderness and closeness and even passion. And I just did what God asked me to do, and I trusted him for the outcome. And I watched the miracle of our intimately ever after unfold. So God gets all the glory for that. And I get to give wives that same, the wives that I serve, I get to offer them that hope, that armed with happy wife superpowers and a fast track to an intimately ever after, to a marriage that looks like a home full of laughter and joy and feeling seen and special again, and a husband who pursues, and a life that flows just easier and more peacefully. But there are some truths about powers that, as wives and just as women, we need to learn before we learn the happy wife superpowers that I teach. And number one, for me, it was to seek God first, seek his kingdom first. It was in Matthew 6:33. It's seek the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. So we were talking about intimacy and how much courage it takes, and it does because it's scary, it's risky. But intimacy with Jesus is the key to intimacy in our marriages. And an intimate relationship with Jesus and our husbands isn't just a one and done deal, right? it's a daily practice. So in the scripture, James 4:8, God says, draw near to me and I will draw near to you. So Jesus is inviting us into closeness with him, and trusting him by obeying his word is how we say yes. So we need to find a daily practice that we love and make him first. This is for me. It's not for you, but I am sure that with all the wisdom that's coming out of you, you have a daily practice that you love and you are making um, the Lord of your life first. And number two, we're empowered. We may not feel like it, but we have power. We're the gatekeepers of intimacy as females. We are the receivers. And we set the tone of our home. And God showed me happy wife superpowers that produce results in weeks, not months, and sometimes in a day. So if our husbands aren't on board, that's how powerful our choices are. It can happen that fast. And number three, we probably believe lies. Lies like, I don't have power. Nothing's going to change unless my husband changes. It's okay. I should just be grateful for my okay-ish marriage, or my husband should go first. And those kind of lies just zap our power and they keep our hearts all guarded, right? So number four is our heart posture is the secret sauce. It is. And it took me a really long time to soften my heart. But that softness was the change to everything. And it helps wives skip the pain and the confusion and the wasted time I went through, and a huge consequence of divorce. So I love what I'm hearing today because you guys are teaching me so much. Thank you so much for sharing your hearts because it's exciting.
Yes, you got invited because you're a powerhouse and the work that you're doing out there is really helping. I'm one of those, I was on your workshop and I took one of your superpowers in action during the call, and the results were undeniable. And they work when you take action and you're responsible, right? Like you said, Gwen, we're co-creators. And like you said, Celine, how is this happening for me? And a lot of it is what I heard too, is like to lean in more into love and compassion, like fully. Like that's everything in my experience of doing this broadcast, as long as I have and talked to so many women out there who are on the journey, I always feel like anytime anybody talks about hardship, it's like, oh, what do you get to lean into more up there? And it's always
Mm.
love, compassion, and forgiveness. Those are the three that keep coming up for me. And it is now on my intention to always be love, connection, compassion, and forgiveness, and starting with myself. Because it all starts with you. And I think that's what we all kind of said in a roundabout way here. Not a roundabout way, but we all said it in our own unique way. And it takes you really just taking yourself on. You are the gatekeeper. And I loved everything you guys shared. And so as we start to reframe after deciding that we're going to reclaim our identity, we get to foster our sacred tools because it's our tool belt, our toolbox that is going to support us on this journey, because life can get muddy and it can get crazy and it can get chaotic, and it's those tools that keep the resilience, keep us in our resiliency. So Julie, this question's for you. And your story of heartbreak and healing has become a mission to help wives restore intimacy and joy and having a playful connection through the lens of God's design. What sacred tools and practices or faith-based truths have given you the courage and resilience through the hardest season of marriage? And how do you share these tools with the women you serve?
Thank you. So I want to just start with God's design for marriage because it was very early in scripture that he talks about it. So in Genesis 1:27 and 31, scripture tells us God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. And then God saw that he had made what he had made, and indeed it was very good. So God's the author of marriage, and we have an enemy in the spiritual realm. I call him the liar, Other people call him Satan, the devil, whatever. But he is a liar. And he's the thief who came to steal, kill, and destroy everything that is good. So you can bet that with marriage, he's doing everything in his might to break up what God created and said is very good. And God gave us these super specific marriage instructions. There's a powerful 2,000-year-old secret hidden in Ephesians 5:33. And when I say it's hidden, it's really not, but I missed it. I read it and I missed it over and over again. And this is what it says. However, let each husband love his wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. So this verse shows us something vital. Love is a wife's primary need, and respect is a husband's primary need. It doesn't mean that we don't need both of them, but that's the primary for each of us. That's why God told us those things. He probably also knew that we were a little wired to not do those things because they're not our primary need. So the Bible made it clear that both of those needs and those things that we do are unconditional. So that means that our husbands don't have to earn our respect, and we don't have to earn their love. Thank goodness, right? So this isn't just a good idea. It's a command from God, and he has a reason for it. So our husbands need respect like they need air, and without it, they feel like they can't breathe. And Dr. Emerson Eggerichs, in his book Love and Respect, calls it the crazy cycle. So without respect, our husbands react without love. And without love, we react without respect. And around this crazy cycle goes. So every time I act disrespectfully to my husband, I notice that he gets agitated and cranky. That's unloving, right? And so I get upset that he's being unloving, and you can see how the wheel's turning right there. But God's design is love and respect. If we have both, we won't have conflict, distance, and hopelessness. We're going to break that cycle, and we can do it starting with our own actions. So that big thing for me was I didn't really understand why my husband needed respect. I thought he was just kind of being a jerk and demanding kind of that he should be respected, even though he never used that word. But now that I knew why, and why they needed that, and then I needed the how. So that's why I want to look at 3 ways wives extinguish intimacy when we disrespect. And when I tell you these, if they sting, I get it. I promise you, I was the poster wife for every single one of these. I still make mistakes. I am in the learn mode. I am in work in process, and I always will be, but I am much better. So as we talk through the 3 ways wives extinguish intimacy, I'm going to also share 3 happy wife superpowers that reignite intimacy. And they're from Laura Doyle's book, The Empowered Wife. So here is our superpower power today, which is restore respect. And there's 3 ways to do it. So we don't mean to be disrespectful, but the truth is, even in small things, it can make our husbands feel unseen, unsafe, or unwanted. And I know that is not what we ever intend. So Ephesians 5:33 is clear. We just read that. We're called to respect our husbands unconditionally, even if we don't feel that way or we don't feel like they deserve it. But here's why disrespect extinguishes intimacy. If we disrespect him, we're literally stepping on his air hose. He only has 2 choices in order to keep breathing. He can distance himself, which is run away, retreat, hide, stonewall, or defend himself because he literally cannot breathe. So when you're seeing that going on in your marriage, that's your clue that there might be something going on in the disrespect. Not blaming it on you. It's not always that case, but there are 3 ways we disrespect our husbands. So the number 1 way that we disrespect them is when he's talking, we're not paying attention or listening. We're giving suggestions or helpful tips, and we're agreeing, disagreeing, interrupting, or offering our opinion. So these little things we do while he's talking make him feel unimportant. And we unintentionally shut down his heart and silence his leadership, which is absolutely what we don't want to do, right? So let's just talk about listening 101. The first duty of love is to listen. So we all have a deep need to be heard and understood. And when our husbands talk and we interrupt or offer advice or say, that's not what happened, even if we're trying to help, it doesn't seem like respect to him. It really feels like rejection and dishonor. And when we don't give him our full attention, or we're half listening while we're doing 3 things at once, which I am very good at, it sends the message, what you're saying is not important to me. So how do we fix it? We start listening with presence. We look him in the eye and we say 3 words. I hear you. It is so simple. It is so powerful. We give him the gift of feeling listened to without agreeing or disagreeing. So what is our superpower number 1? We say, I hear you. So it tells him, I'm with you. I see you. I care. And just listening keeps us out of trouble, and it draws us closer, and is a very, very powerful way to build intimacy. Because when our husbands choose to share with us, it's an honor, and our presence is the gift. So that's a gift we can give him in listening. The number 2 way we disrespect him is when we criticize, we dismiss, we contradict, we argue, or we try to teach him. And things we might say there might be, that's not how you do that, or you should have just done this, or you always, or why did you, when we're wanting to teach him something or help him improve or make a decision. And I was talking with a wife this week, and she was saying that she thinks that what she had done was disrespectful when her husband was just saying, hey, I'd really like, you to spend a little time before you leave to get the kitchen a little cleaner so that when we come home, we don't have to deal with that. And she just dismissed him instead of doing it. And so he's been it's not a demand. It was just like, I would really like that. So now she can hear that and know that she's dismissing that. And she can take the 3 minutes to turn the dishwasher on when she leaves. So she was excited to have that superpower. So sometimes when we're doing this, it just comes out of frustration, but it shuts them down. And when he doesn't feel emotionally safe, he pulls away or defends himself. And we're stepping on his air hose again. So superpower number 2 is when he's making a decision that is his to make, we say, whatever you think. Even if you're not sure he's right, because that phrase builds trust and respect. It tells him, I believe in you and you've got this. So that's the number 2 thing. Whatever you think, give him trust. And number 3, we disrespect him by trying to take control. So this happens when we don't honor his thinking or admire his accomplishments or his capabilities or his choices. So we start making decisions for him, or we don't honor his abilities, and we don't honor his leadership. We don't ask his opinion, and we redo what he's already done because we want it right. And we try to control his choices. So when we don't trust him to handle things, our anxiety takes over. So we're getting nervous and cranky. And what he hears is, I don't trust you. You're not capable. So if we've ever taken action over like this and acted like a boss, it is A-okay because God gave us a way to turn it around fast. So superpower number 3 is apologize when we are disrespectful. Just say, I am sorry. I was disrespectful when I blank, blank, blank. So we own it humbly, and it makes him want to step up and lead. And that is what we want too. So the quick recap of those happy wife superpowers are say, I hear you, which is listen with presence. Say whatever you think, which is show respect and trust in his abilities and decisions. And say, I'm sorry, I was disrespectful which brings you through in a loving, selfless, humble way and honest when we make a mistake. And these small shifts carry so much power because we're not trying to fix our husbands. We're becoming the kind of wives God called us to be. And if we restore respect, we get to avoid the crazy cycle of conflict and distance and enter into the energizing cycle of love and respect. So those are the 3 happy wife superpowers. And those all are focused on the one thing you can control, which is you. So that's why I love those.
Wow. So powerful. I love your invitation to be responsible in our part. They seem very practical. They seem super simple, but I mean, I said the last one. The last superpower is the one that I put in action during your workshop, and I really felt him softening and hearing, and I almost felt him even like puff up a little bit, like just like confidence came back in him. And he's like, "Oh, I'm being seen in this moment and held high." And I think it was so powerful. So thank you so much for those beautiful gifts. And it's so being unconditional with your love and your respect, I think is powerful too. So thank you so much for sharing what you shared. I'll open it up to the panel. What daily or spiritual tools help you return to courage and resilience in your own relationships?
I'll start, and I just want to say thank you, Julie, because it's a great reminder. Doesn't matter, not taking the other for granted, So thank you for the tips also, because I can get very much into my own thoughts and my own process, and so I will definitely apply your good advice.
Thank you.
Um, so for the daily routine, a couple of years ago, I went to a women's retreat in Joshua Park, and it was amazing. It really made me realize what I was missing in my daily routines in connecting with myself. And one of the biggest thing was, learning. We get all busy, social media, like I'm on the computer all day long for my work, whether I travel or I do it from home. And, I just learned I need to disconnect from all of this. I need to disconnect from even other people being in my space, bringing their energy into me. And I know you spoke about that earlier, Lumina and Gwen, but, I learned that in order for me to stay really and be really truly the person that I am, I get to ground myself. And, I discovered chakra meditation. I discovered how to ground myself very quickly, very simply. I discovered the power of water and why I love water so much and how healing it is for me and how quickly it helps me shift. So, I do many different daily practices. And it's all about reconnecting with Mother Earth, Father Sky. Honestly, just really simple, clean way of just being me in this space and outside, whatever the weather is. And I'm lucky where I live. But it's even like, going to my fruit trees and literally talking to them and putting what my compost is back to it. I mean, my trees produce so much fruit, it's incredible. I literally talk to them and how much, I enjoy the fruit that they produce, but have no chemicals. And I put my compost on it and give it back. So I learned that, Lumina, at that retreat that I went to, just the simple pleasure of simple life and how to cherish, what Earth gives us and gives it back to her. So, I literally take the fruit once I've eaten the fruit and I put it in the compost and I give it back to the tree so he can grow again new fruits. And so it's such a beautiful process of connecting. And for me, it's disconnecting from what life creates out there that's not tangible. Whereas I can really connect to me being here present right now in my daily gratitude, being grateful for what I have, grateful for people in my life, grateful for, what's working in my life and who I am here present today. So, and for me, somebody who came from a very disconnected, spiritually, very disconnected from an upbringing to where I am now, where I understand the power we have within us and the energy that we produce and how much energy we get to connect to in the present, wherever we stand. It's beautiful, you know. So for me, that's been a huge turning point in managing stress, managing situation. Just walk away for 5-10 minutes, you know, reground myself and come back in and look at things completely different, like helping me take a step back, literally. And I do these daily with different intentions, depends what's going on today or tomorrow or whatever, but really just listening to what I receive and listening to me and how I feel, trusting my instincts, you know? So that's me.
Love that. Being intentional is a big one. I heard you say a couple times. Yeah. I think that's key. Intention is 100% everything. So I love that you ground yourself in that because I think this is the second time I've heard you say it. So it's key. It really is. It's intention is everything. I love it.
I'd like to tap in on that one. I loved your story too. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Celine. I love this question. How do we come back into bridging a connection with anyone, really? Whether it's our partner, whether it's our neighbors, whether it's our beloved friends or families, it's taking that accountability always, right? And for me to be able to have that space of accountability and set the tone for myself, I have these rituals that I do for myself. I go outside, just like you ladies do. I go outside, I go to the sun, I breathe. I give gratitude for this breath, for this life, for this moment today, and for the opportunities that are going to come for me today that are going to be opportunities to grow and change and embrace them that way. What does that mean? What does that look like? That means I'm accountable. I'm taking the accountability that I'm going to be the common denominator in my life today and in every day. And so how I speak to people has to be clear, concise, honest, based on my values of respect, right? Those things are always very precise for me. And always having some, I have my other values that I like to toss in there: playfulness, joy, acceptance, compassion, all these things. And harkening back to my days in the clinicals, is I remember teaching groups about intimacy and talking about like the four stages of intimacy and how they were built. They were from this book from a husband and wife psychologist team, Laure, Laurer, and it was about building intimacy in marriage. And they identified the four blocks, right? And we have the first one being rapport. How do I feel with this person? That means I have to take accountability. How's my nervous system checking in right now? Do I feel, have I taken good care of myself? Did I eat? Did I stretch? Did I give space for me to be able to read what's going on, right? That's rapport. How am I comfortable with this space? Self-disclosure comes from the next stage. If I feel comfortable, I'm going to give you my ideas. I'm going to let you know my needs, wants, desires, dreams. And then the next stage is called fulfillment. That gives the opportunity of the person that's the listener, my partner, the person I'm engaging with, to fulfill those needs, wants, desires, and go, oh, I feel comfortable with you. You like that too. I do too. Thank you. Or you know what? You're right. Today was kind of heavy. I'm feeling that too, hon. Can you help me with this? I get it. I saw you were having a hard day. I'm going to help you with that. That's the fourth stage: commitment. And they all build on each other: rapport, self-disclosure, fulfillment, commitment. And when any of those start falling backwards, it goes in a domino effect the other way. So if I'm not able to perceive that my needs are being fulfilled, whether it is from my friends, from my partner, from my loved ones, I have the responsibility of saying, I know I'm comfortable enough with you to tell you my truth. And today was a heavy day. I'm going to get totally accountable on this one, but I feel let down, or I feel hurt, or I feel like I need a hug. Can we do that? Right. There's that building that intimacy. I'm letting that person in again to know this is what this person needs, and vice versa. Because the more I show up that way, the more that encourages others to show up authentically as well.
Absolutely.
The authenticity is what drives the foundation of every single relationship across the board. So the power of understanding that things happen to crack us, not break us. Things happen to show us in those moments there's resilience, there's values, there's understanding, there's I understand now the boundaries and borders of my body, what feels good in me, what feels good to receive and to give. Whew. Then now I know how to communicate with you honestly, concisely, with respect, with love, because I gave myself that first. Because I came back to me. Because I came back to center. Because I came back to listening to the voice of God or source or spirit within me. Not outside of me, the one that is inside. And when I operate authentically from that love space, that encourages and invites people around me to be in that frequency. And if they're not, if they're zigging and I'm zagging, guess what? Life tends to weed that garden for me. Whether with my boundaries that I speak clearly, or whether makes them uncomfortable because I'm really honest and they can't get there yet. But that's their medicine path. That's okay. They're still walking that black door. I get to unconditionally love that person. I think we've lost touch with the true meaning of unconditional love. I'll love you so much, but I just wish you would do this. That's not unconditional love. The most ultimate, beautiful experience of unconditional love is how you were birthed from source here, and you have free will to exact your life however magically you want to. That's unconditional love. That also means you get to have your shitty days.
Amen.
And you get to make mistakes and learn from them.
Hallelujah.
Because why? It adds colors to your butterfly wings. It adds colors to the rainbow love essence that emanates from your heart space and from the space you say radically you're going to take up in this life. That's unconditional love. And everyone's allowed to have that interdependence with them, right? And having that love and respect is understanding, oh, you're going to have a small day. I'll be big for you today. I got you. And I'm not going to take it personal. And I'm not going to make you say, oh, I did that for you. No, that's not unconditional love. Right? Because you know that the people you come around to have with yourself being authentic are going to support you equally as well. They have this way in the native world that we say, look at your forest. Look at your forest. That's who nurtures you. That's your support system. That's your spirit guides, your connection with source, your connection to yourself, what time you give yourself to become yourself before you can set out to fill everyone else's cup. How do you fill your cup? You know? So I think that's what helps me to really maintain that essence of love in my relationships. Coming back to those spaces, give myself those breaks so I can regulate my nervous system, whether it's tapping, whether it's breathwork, whether it's jumping and exciting my fascia, whether it's doing biofield tuning, whether it's drumming and doing whatever I need to. And then go, shake it off, moving forward. What's life got for me today? Oh.
Oh, yes.
So
Shake it
powerful.
off. It's so great. Oh my gosh. Go ahead, Gwen.
I was listening to so many beautiful things. To come back to Lumina is actually what you were sharing about unconditional love and love and respect for the other is coming from love and respect for yourself. That's the essence of Tantra. That's like boom, spot on. And also like when things happen for us, it evokes challenges for growth. Now, in Tantra, we have also different realms where we are present. Like we have in the we have the wind and the fire and stuff in medicine. terms, but we also have the dark and the dark light and the light dark and the light light. So it's the same thing, right? We just name it in a different way, but it's the same thing. And it's also when we deep dive into Christianity, and we have the same thing when we talk about the God and the devil and the shadows and whatever. It's all one the same thing. And when we connect with growing and alignment with our inner voice or with spirit or with God, like however you name it, it always comes from a challenge, because this is the way we humans evolve. And in Tantra, I was hearing, like, you do chakra meditations. That was what I was hearing. You do chakra meditations. So when we connect with the chakras from a tantric viewpoint, then we also know that the animal realm, the highest, like chakras, they have not only energy, but they also have consciousness. So every chakra carries energy, a specific energy, and comes with a specific consciousness. And these together create the frequency of being in or a reality, let's say. Let's call it a reality, a specific reality. Now, animals, they also have chakras, and their highest developed chakra is our root chakra. So as long as you are in your root chakra, life happens to you because things are evoked and you go into your drama and the unknown and blah, blah, blah. Well, the animal realm, they evolve by nature. They don't need external experiences to follow their instincts. They just do whatever nature is programmed them to do or to be, and they just follow it. It doesn't mean they have emotions. It doesn't mean they don't experience pain or suffering or anything, but they don't do it with the consciousness of being able to cause and create yourself. That's our doing. That's human doing. It's not the animal part. But when we walk through that process in the chakras, every time we have a challenge, we also have an opportunity to lean in and to connect in a different way with our respect and our love unconditionally for ourselves and the people around us, whether it's a man or a woman. Because respect, yes, that's the key for the man, and love and connection is the key for the women. But when we really lean into that, when I was listening, I said, like, but I also want to have respect. It's not a privilege for a man. Of course, a man leads with respect and is followed by love. And a woman, she leads with love and is followed by respect. And when a man and a woman align with each other, they equally can treasure unconditional love for each other and unconditional respect for each other. Because respect and respect are two different things. Depending on where you are in your awareness, in from what chakra you live from, like, or which reality you process life through, respect has a different meaning. Love has a different meaning. And as long as you are in these lower vibrations of ego, pulled by frustration and anger and fear and grief and shame, then respect and love has a completely different outcome and meaning than when you go beyond the courage and you connect into love and respect. Because this is the space where you can tap into unconditionally, being unconditional. As long as you live in the realm before the courage. So you cannot let your ego go. You get to be pride. You get to suffer. You get to lead with sorrow and grief and pain and the drama of the past. When you are in that space, you cannot come in with a specific way of, I hear you, I trust you, I believe you, because then it's a power struggle. So when one person is stepping beyond the courage and having the resilience to lean in and come with respect unconditionally and come with love unconditionally and lands like, I hear you, I feel you, I trust you, I follow you. And the other person is still in the other side of, I get the power, I am right, I am in control, I am the man, or I need you to love me. Then that's a completely different reality. And when one person is in beyond the courage part, going into the conditional realm, and the other person stays in the realm of power, not in the meaning of inner power, but power, force, then the message of I hear you, I believe you, I trust you doesn't land. So it's very important to really lean into the fact to know the other person, what's his space or what is her space. What's the reality over there? And is there the willingness to step into courage? Or is there not? Because at the end, we cause and create our own life. And when we listen to the love, to the unconditional love for ourselves, and we listen to the unconditional respect for ourselves, then maybe it's a good thing, often in a while, to question our marriage or the people where we have a relationship, whether it's your son or your brother or whoever it is, because we get to lead in and connect with people that are really are in the same mind. You cannot give unconditional love, keep pouring in with unconditional love without hurting yourself for a person who is just in the dark and doesn't understand the difference between conditional or unconditional. And that's a trap where we all fall into, because as women, we are born to be unconditional. That's our signature. And we've learned to push that away to be able to survive in society of a man's world. And when we really lean into the treasures of life being unconditional in respect and in love, and let us lead by our gut voice within ourselves, then we can be unconditional for everybody, but we also get to lean in to be unconditional for ourselves. So sacrificing ourselves for the good of others isn't a healthy thing. And it certainly doesn't serve the other. So being powerfully bold truthfully honest with each other is then coming back to the authenticity is key in order to have a healthy relationship, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a parent relationship, doesn't matter. And then for me, it comes back to trust, truth, and tenderness. Because when you have these three in place with each other, then mutual unconditional respect and unconditional love can exist. And I think it's a very important distinction we get to make to learn in what world is the other person living.
Mm. Yeah, I love how you presence the importance of having awareness, like we're meeting meeting that person where they are to know if
Exactly.
unconditional love is going to land. And I really loved how you presence that as a caveat of like, hey, sometimes being unconditional and sacrificing yourself for the good of others is only hurting you,
But
and
that's not being
it's not sustainable.
unconditional.
Yeah, and
Sacrificing yourself is not being
it's not.
unconditional
Yeah, I love it.
because
I
it's
love
condition.
everything you said.
Sacrificing yourself is conditional to
Yes,
yourself and to the other.
that's
It
true.
doesn't serve anybody or anything. So
Wow.
when I am talking about awareness of being unconditional for yourself in respect and in love, and being unconditional for the other in respect and in love, it's not the same thing as being aware of I am being unconditional towards the other one. But if your message of being unconditional doesn't land, you still can be unconditional for that person, but you also get to be present with where is my boundary in order to love myself enough and respect myself enough to understand that the way we interact is a toxic or an elevating condition. And
I
when
love
you
that.
are in a toxic condition, most likely it is because the other person or you, depending on the situation, isn't possible, can't lean into that unconditional love and respect for some reason. And most likely we get to look into the mirror. That's my way of being courageous and resilience. It's not the first rodeo in this show here in this environment, in this circle, and it always comes down to the mirror. When I do not respect myself, I don't land respect with other people. If I don't love myself, I don't land love with other people. That's the thing.
Mm,
And when
simple
we
as
can
that.
step into our unconditional being, then we can meet other people where they are and still love them. And in the meanwhile, give a boundary because that boundary protects them and protects ourselves. It's the same with children. If we love our children, we get to put boundaries. If we don't put boundaries, they are lost because children need boundaries. But it's not only children, it's also the people that we love and connect with in our environment. We get to have our boundaries. And if we don't have boundaries because we come in with love and respect, and it's not coming from an authentic, unconditional intent, then it's a mechanism
Yeah. And
and it
energy
dies.
does not lie. Right, right,
Exactly.
Gwenergy? Gwenergy knows. If anybody knows, it's Gwenergy. I love it. And so it's so important, right? When we start to shine in our leadership, doing the work, the sacred work, it can feel a little lonely, right? And hard. So it's so important to have that community as your bridge to feel the belonging and inclusion. And it's also really great for creating impact. So, Gwen, this question's for you. As the visionary behind the Tantric Leadership and Elevator Legacy, you really help ambitious parents and couples reconnect with the truth and design thriving lives. How does cultivating courage and resilience within yourself ripple outward into the way that you guide families, entrepreneurs, to rebuild trust, intimacy, and leadership rooted in purpose and pleasure?
Well, simple answer, looking in the mirror.
I love it.
It's like, it's the whole Ho'oponopono, right? It's just like everything we shift and change within ourselves, we shift and change within our life. So when I connect with a couple or one of the people in the couple that wants to have support, and there is sometimes I feel that things that I'm sharing are not landing. Or sometimes I feel that the other person is resisting my coaching. And that's the moment that I go into my courage and ask, what do you need from me? And ask, how can I be a better coach for you? Because it seems my message isn't landing. It's the courage to be humble and vulnerable with the fact that you don't know it all. And being humble with the fact that what you want to land with the person is maybe not what the person needs in that moment. So being vulnerable and connecting with that person and stepping into your courage, that gives actually a healthy way of working with people. Because when I reflect, when I receive that feedback, then I understand more where they are coming from, and it makes it easy to adjust my language of the meaning what I want to land with them in a different way so they do understand. And when I get to do that, I just get to go home and question myself. Okay, I am not landing with this person, so what's not landing within me? It seems that for some reason they are holding on to the breakdown and not create the breakthrough. So where do I get to step into my transformation in order to cause and create a breakthrough for them? And that's courage and that's resilience, because it always comes down to us. If we want to cause and create change, if we want to cause and create transformation, if we want to lead, we get to lead by example. And that's courage. And that's resilience.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it all starts with us. We're the mirror. If we want to experience something different, then we get to choose something different, make a different choice. I love that. Ah, so powerful. And I'll open this question up for the panel. How has resilience shifted the way that you show up for others and in the larger communities that you're leading?
I'll start it from Gwen, actually, what you just said, talking about landing your message. And whenever you talk to somebody, if what you're trying to say doesn't seem to make a difference for them, or they're not responding or anything, to me, so very important, right? Because we're here, my goal is always to, like I said, connect with the other person in front of you. At the end of the day, if you're just here to say your thing and walk away from it, that's very selfish. So you're not making any difference. So, what I heard you talk about is how it's important we get to be whoever that person in front of us needs us to be at that moment. And it may not be anything we were prepared to actually address today. It may be something completely different. So I think courage, honestly, is about really just giving in generosity without expecting us to get anything in return. Courage is showing up for somebody else, like we wouldn't show up for even ourselves sometimes. And giving them a gift of what we see that person in front of us being, so it's not so much the resilience, but it's about being committed. Again, resilience for me is so much about commitment, and it's being committed and being courageous to really make a difference in the person that's in front of you, no matter what the circumstances.
Love
And
that.
what Gwen just shared really kind of put some perspective on it for me.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
I love the shares, all of it. Gwen, I loved your share. Thank you. It's the beauty of that, of recognizing, leaning in that resilience, and how am I not landing here? What is not landing here and here, right? And how for instance, I serve in women's Temazcal and Sweat Lodge. I do a lot of my work with women, and also a lot of co-ed as a medicine person too. But I practice embracing with curiosity, leaning
Yes.
into my curiosity of how is this person receiving, how am I showing up, and how can we make this a richer exchange. When it comes to like the community of the sweats that I serve, of the women's sweat, I always like to ask what's going on, what's happening collectively in the space of the community right now. So I'll check in individually. How are you doing? What's going on? What's happening? And then I kind of get a flavor. I guess I would say, yeah, I guess the flavor would be of what is happening in the collective and how to respond from there. Recognizing that the resilience of the experience that I have walking up here has served me in every way possible. And there's going to be some elements of the unknown. There is that black door, the great mystery door that we're all going to walk into in some way, right? But leaning into curiosity has always been something that helps me to find out how I can help best serve my community with the
Nice.
resilience of the experiences I've had. So, and leaning into things I don't know. If I don't know, then I call my elders. Or I call, or I call someone that has a little bit more experience in this time, or I go within and I listen to what are the messages that come forward. I feel, for me as a Native woman, I find a very deep connection when I pray with my drum. That's one of my ways that I really go deep, and I get a lot of beautiful transmissions and beautiful insights that come from spirit based on love, service, compassion, curiosity, bringing in empowerment. That's always something that's one of my foundations when I'm working with others, is I want you to walk away with this exchange having tools, knowing what's going on inside that you need to apply from your spiritual toolbox. Have those tools ready for you, and know that you are the medicine.
Oh, yeah. Love that.
I want to know that for me as a person, whether I'm facilitating, whether I'm helping as a medicine woman, you're going to walk away from this experience with less needing to go to another person, with more tools in your toolbox. In your toolbox. In that toolbox, in the heart toolbox. You know what I mean? So that's where I like to go with that. That's it.
So beautiful.
So I mean, I may be answering it in two different ways because you guys brought up some things that I did want to add to what I had thought about saying here, but because I love what you're saying, the curiosity. I don't think I'm naturally have that in me. You know what I mean? So I have to cultivate that. But one of the things I do love about this is that we're doing this in community, but also, what we do is in community. And it was his favorite thing to talk about because I don't think I would have had ever, well, that's not true, would not have seen as quickly what was going on inside me in my marriage if I hadn't been in community, even though the communities I was in had nothing to do with marriage. it pointed absolutely right away to that. And so, twice, in two different communities. So I feel like just being together, we can know that we're not alone, and we can start talking about things more. We can be more open, right? We don't have to be hidden and hiding, and we can do it together in a safe place, right? So whether it's a powerful group or it's a one-on-one type of coaching experience, that helps because, one of the things I was thinking about this morning is Scripture says that when two or more are gathered in my name, I am there in the midst of them. That's what Jesus said, right? So I definitely want Jesus in our midst, because none of any of this transformation for me would have been possible without that. So we're not just dealing with like, okay, how do I communicate and all those things or unmet expectations, but we're in a spiritual war, and we have a powerful God who, has promised us stuff. And if we claim those promises over ourselves and speak them over ourselves and speak to God about them, he can loose he can loose angelic powers on our behalf. He can bind wicked spirits. We can do that in the authority of Jesus's name, because every knee has to bow. So there's just a lot there. Okay. And it's really, Jesus didn't work in community, and I don't think any of us think that we are free of community, right? So community is a really important part to me. And when we're just transforming and we're rising and we're walking out our change with God, so it feels awful to do alone. And when we're pointing fingers, like you guys are talking about, when you're in that ego stage or that lower stage, and we're commiserating, then we can't get there. But sometimes we don't even know we're there until we're in community, right? But one of the things y'all brought up that I thought, it kind of made me think about myself is the other day I was talking to a wife, and she pretty much was telling me that she had one foot out the door, which to me is, you're on the fence, and the fence hurts your butt, right? Because you're getting splinters in your butt, because you don't know if you're here or you're there. So you can't do anything over here and you can't do anything over there. It's just very uncomfortable. But I didn't know it, kind of like, I'm not really sure what to tell her, because anything that I would offer her would be to, once you're decide to do something, here's what you can do. But on the other hand, I also felt very convicted to just point out, but I didn't do that directly. It was more in questions, and then, thinking about it afterwards, that when you're there, you're actually giving that other person that energy that you are not in. So they become defensive, and they become, that things bubble up inside them because they know. I mean, people have a sense of what's going on. So it causes insecurity. It's not, you're not, but I'm just saying it can cause things negatively in your marriage. So I wasn't really sure how to handle that. So I just I loved hearing what you were saying. If I could learn how, and we could all learn how to be more curious. And like, one of the things I think Gwen said is that if you don't know, or if you're not able to get there, then you ask those questions like, what do you need from me? What is it that you're wanting, from me? And then let them tell you, because they may know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Or we're supposed to be doing. So I'm kind of in learn mode on that. So I'm glad to hear your guys, input.
I know. I feel like this conversation was so on point, perfectly timed for where I am in life, and I gather that the collective is there, because I don't think anything's coincidence or happenstance. Like, I think it's all perfectly orchestrated, and we're all here together because we all had this to share, to remind ourselves. I think we all heard something where it's like, oh, I get to lean in more on that. And there was just so much that was shared here today that yeah, that I get to just be responsible for and um, not feel guilty for giving myself the self-love and the self-care that I need so I can stay sovereign and show up for you.
Yes.
Period.
Yes. Right.
So I love this. This call is coming close quickly to an end. So before we close, I'd love for each of you to share a free gift or a resource or an offering that will really help our listeners embody the courage and resilience in their own lives. And we'll start with Gwen.
So yeah, I just recently, yesterday, I launched my AI. So I trained an AI. So people can make use of it for free and share it with community because it's really leaning into parenthood, in relationships, in inner freedom, wisdom, purpose, all these things, all the good stuff we were listening today. I trained that AI on that structure. So it's part of it's spiritual, but another one is in leadership. Another part of it is really like connecting with your parenthood, with your motherhood, with your how you can lean into being a wife for yourself and for your husband and in these types of things. So you can make use of that AI. So you go in there, you get really beautiful stuff in it, and it guides you through all the things we talked about today. And I'm just offering it for free. Spread it in the world, share it with everybody, so this can inspire you as much as you want.
Beautiful. Celine.
So I'm offering 2 sessions with me for 30 minutes, coaching, whether in leadership, business, any aspects that would support anybody who feels especially stuck or doesn't feel like they're empowered and they feel like life's happening to them and not happening for them. So
Beautiful.
Beautiful. I'll put all these in the show notes or the comments, depending on where you're watching this. Julie.
I'm offering the Happy Wife Superpower Guide. So it has the things that we talked about today and two more superpowers in it. So that is just a beautiful PDF, and you can have that on your phone and read through that. Has a lot of great info. And then I have a Happy Wife. It's called the Happy Wife Facebook group. So that is free. And we do weekly superpowers in there and encouragement and tools and just sisterhood, safety, and support. We're better together.
I
Absolutely.
love it.
Together, everyone achieves more.
Yes.
Great, great.
Stronger together. Go ahead,
So I guess
Lumina.
it's last one. Hi. So I am offering, I'm going to be doing, I also do Akashic Records. So some people really like going into the Akashic Records. Some people don't know what it is, but I'm offering to do a 30-minute Akashic Records for people who are interested in it. Just check it out. And we can be interesting the places we go to. I also here in Los Angeles serve in Women's Sweat Lodge, and I also do co-ed sweat lodges too. So those based on the co-ed sweat lodges, I do those with biofield tuning because I'm a biofield tuning practitioner, acupressurist, EFT practitioner, and a shamanic medicine woman. So working with all of these elements inside Temazcal helps people come back to themselves, come back to center in many ways. And I also do a lot of workshops too, of teaching people how to do shamanic drumming. What is hape? What is rituals? What is making altars? Why do we imbue the elements? Why do we like all of these wins to create new rituals for ourselves to connect energetically back to our bodies and spiritually back to the body as well. So yeah, and you can find me on www.soulhealing.energy or Instagram Soul Healing Energy as well. So go ahead and check those out, and yeah, let me know.
I love
Let's
it.
hang out.
Such beautiful medicine you guys are all offering.
Thank you.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much for that. All right. So as this is where we always end our conversation is for a message for the woman listening today who's walking through her hardest season, what is a truth? And this is going for everybody, okay? What is the one truth or reminder or spark of courage that you would want her to carry with her as she finds her way home? And we'll start with Celine.
So I will say, for me, strength of character, like knowing who you are and who you want to be in the face of adversity. Like, be really clear who you want to be in this life, because for those who are around you and for yourself. And, look forward to what's possible next. So whatever is happening right now is not the end of it. It's how do you want to come out of it for yourself and for other people. It's not just about looking for positive, right? But really grasping what you're going to get out of that situation, however tough it is at the moment.
I love
So strength of character.
it. Julie?
Mine would be that God just wants us to return to Him. God is good and He wants intimacy with you. And God's design for marriage is very good. So He has more, and it's not too late. And with God, we can just walk away excited because we're going to work with things 100% within our control with His power, though. And we're going to walk away hopeful. And we're going to walk away reassured and inspired and confident in our own powers that we can use specific things that are easy to implement. So it just helps us feel much more positive toward the future when we know those things.
I love it. Gwen?
I would say, first of all, trust the process because everything is momentum, and momentum, at some point, momentum turns. When it's a bad momentum, after the rain, the sun always shines. So at some point it will turn. Things pass by, right? So just trust the process. The other thing is lean into yourself, like trust your inner voice. And I'm talking about your intuition. Listen to the signals of your body, not to the chit chat in your head, but really like, how do I respond and why do I respond? Is it valid? Is my inner voice or God saying something to me? And do I need to lean into that? Or am I just anxious and letting myself guide through my fears and insecurities? So this is something where you get to lean into for yourself and make the distinction between, is the voice coming from your insecurities, past judgment, whatever it is, or am I just leaning in to what the self-love and the self-respect is showing me through my body? And the third thing, as I always say, look into the mirror and ask yourself, is it true?
Yeah.
I love that. So good. Lumina?
Agreed. I definitely agree and resonate with that. Is always check in with ourselves, right? This is what we've been talking about a lot in this gathering today is recognizing things are happening for us. We are ripening these moments in our life for a reason. This is a blossoming of an opportunity to either enjoy the nectar of it, and how much juicing do I have to get there to get that nectar, which means how much opening up do I have to do, how much uncomfort do I have to walk through and let go of that no longer serves this new vision of who I am and what I want to embody in my relationships. Is it in alignment with my heart, with my values, with my ethos of how I live and how I feel my needs can be met and what I deserve? Respect, love, sincerity, compassion. And how am I giving that to another person as well? Or if this is something, a moment that is creating such a wake up call, then I ask for wisdom and courage to get me through that breaking of the veil to the new version of me that's coming forward. And I welcome that new version of me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Such beautiful medicine. Thank you so much, ladies. It's truly been an honor, and this conversation has sparked so much within me. And I definitely going to be watching this one again on repeat on those days that I was just like, why is it happening to me? Oh, no, no, it's happening for me. Let me just put on the courage. You turn on the courage episode again. Oh, beautiful sisters, as we close this circle, let this truth anchor deep in your heart. You were never broken, only cracked open so the light within you could remember itself.
Mhm.
You come from a lineage of survivors, dreamers, and warriors of love. Their strength lives in your breath.
Mhm.
Their courage flows in your veins. You are the mountain and the eagle, grounded and soaring, ancient and new. This life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. I feel like I have to say it again. This life is not happening to you, it's happening for you and through you. Okay? I like to go a deeper level. Like it's happening through
Can
you.
you repeat it again? Because I didn't understood it. What was it again?
Life happens through you, Gwen. You're
Right.
responsible.
That's
Every
right.
challenge, every pause, every crack has been guiding you home to your truth. And
Mhm.
in that truth, you'll always find God,
Mhm.
source divine, because love is the key and it's already within you. So choose courage, choose grace, choose to be living example of unconditional love. Listen with presence.
Mhm.
Honor your body, your spirit, your community, and this sacred earth beneath you. Fill your own cup first, and then let it overflow in compassion for others. Because, sister, what you give yourself is what you give the world. And nothing, not one storm, not one shadow can take away the light you carry. Together we rise, one breath, one heart, one sisterhood. And as always, if this conversation sparked something within you, if your heart cracked open just a little more, if you felt seen, heard, or simply not alone, please share this and subscribe to our channel, because when you do, this content can reach more of the sisters and the women who need that reminder that she's not alone and that her voice matters and that healing is actually possible for her.
Mhm.
So remember, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Until next time, sisters, keep shining your light, keep rising, and keep coming home. Because you matter and you are enough exactly as you are. I'm your host, Margarita Rose. This is a Coming Home to You Sacred Sisterhood Sparkcast. I'm here today with Julie, Lumina, Celine, and Gwen. Thank you again. I'll see you next time on the same channel, same spark time. Have a good one.
Aho. Aho.
Aho! I love it.